What's a movie you love, but if someone said they hated it you would completely understand why? Waterworld. Romy and Michelle's high school reunion. I think it's hilarious but some might find it too goofy I suppose. Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Tried to get my wife to watch it and she said it was so damn boring. Totally understandable because it's weird and pretty slow. But I love that movie. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. I've laughed at that movie harder than any other I can remember. But, if I hadn't been a few beers in and with a group of friends that are a natural laugh track, I don't know if I'd have found it as funny. I still laugh heartily when I watch it. Sober. About once a year. But I found the state of mind, mood I watch things for the first time in, has huge impact on how I view them on future occasions. Kung Fu Hustle. Because it's Kung Fu Hustle. The Swedish Language. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Trilogy. Very faithful adaptation. But the depiction of a main character's assault is brutally realistic. I love the series because it's a story of an abused person's growth and vengeance against their abusers. The Village. I totally get the hate. Even I only really like the first half or 3/4. The twist is sort of meh, but I like the general idea of it. That shitty gun fu Christian Bale movie called Equilibrium. Dogma. Sky High. It's a silly tween movie with silly tween jokes. And I think it's funny. Event Horizon. It's cheesy but I love it. It's fine if people don't like it. Fuck this ship. Jennifer's Body. It has a cult following now. It's a perfect Halloweeny popcorn movie emo. But I can totally see why it bombed initially and most people write it off for gratuitous sexy scenes and weird dialogue. Edit. Wow, thanks for all the karma and the silver. I thought I was such a weirdo for loving this movie. Megan Fox says it's still her favorite work she's ever done. Check out this article about our favorite feminist horror film. https www.buzzfeed news.com amphtml Louis Patesman, Jennifer's Body Diablo Cody Karen Kusama Feminist Horror. Swiss Army Man, a truly beautiful film about friendship. But I understand how it's not to everyone's tastes. Old Boy. Korean movie. It is a little fucked up movie. So I understand if someone doesn't like that. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Bogus Journey. I understand it's not everyone's cup of tea. I guess you had to grow up with Spaceballs to get a kick out of all the quotables. Heathers. I absolutely love it. But it's just a lot with the murder and framing suicide stuff. And some people might not get the jokes. So I could definitely see why it wouldn't be somebody's cup of tea. What We Do in the Shadows. I love it. It's one of my favorites and I love the show as well, but when I showed it to my family, they hated it. The Naked Gun movies. Grave of the Fireflies. Some people can't handle that level of sadness. My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Note that I'm a 36-year-old guy. Was in the military and now work as a machinist. It's a cheesy movie but I find it very sweet. Hot Rod. Fantastic Mr. Fox. Gloriously animated but some may find its stop-motion art direction and mature themes unnerving. Mars Attacks. It's so dumb, but I love it. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Probably not everyone's humor. Napoleon Dynamite. The kind of ennui seeped setting this movie depicts as something that many were presumably privileged enough to never have experienced firsthand. But for those of us who have, the absurd kinds of strange personalities that develop in this environment are intimately familiar to us. And it is a movie that is both validating and hilarious. Midsommar. Clerks. On the surface, it is a rather bland film of nothing but people just talking about relatively trivial things. But when you really dig even just a bit below the surface of the low-budget feel and some forced acting, it really can strike a chord with people. I saw it for the first time when I was 16 and seeing people in their mid-20s still talk about stuff that happened in high school as if it were still important really freaked me out. And I wasn't even a kid that hated high school. Hackers. Signs. I can look past or make excuses for the water as the weakness deal. I like the ominous tone with some dark humor, the focus on one family instead of other alien movies. It was the first scary movie I ever watched all the way through. I was 5. Because let's be real, those first shots of the aliens are terrifying. But yeah, it's a typical M. Night Shyamalan movie so I get it. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I loved it. But it gets really freaky pretty fast. and you can hardly understand the dialogue for some of it. Starship Troopers. Actually nah, I'm good if someone's not a Starship Troopers fan. Cool Runnings. I love the Caribbean and for a while it was the only VHS in the house of a movie set somewhere warm. Joe Dirt. It's a very dumb comedy. But I love that movie so much. Donnie Darko. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I love the movie but totally understand if someone said it's terrible. It's a stoner movie and a meh one at that. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Chicken Run. Space Jam. It is my #1 guilty pleasure movie but goddamn is it terrible when you look at it critically. Sweeney Todd. I love it but it's definitely a weird one. Dune. My favorite book. And the movie is an objectively bad adaptation. And likely makes zero sense if you're not familiar with the material. But man is it a vibe. The production design. The music. The mannered performances. I love it. To All the Boys I Loved Before. It's flaming garbage but some part of my monkey brain says, yes, you like this. I watched it once a day for a week and broke up with a now ex because I realized how poorly I was being treated. The Butterfly Effect. Because this movie is fucking depressing. Kingpin. I understand why no one would like it. Its jokes are corny and predictable. But it's so comfy to me. Remind me of my past. Hook. Wonderful movie but it is quite childish. That's what I enjoy about it but I can see how others wouldn't like it. The Princess Diaries. IDK why I like it so much but I wore out the VHS when I was younger. Tombstone. Westerns aren't for everyone. But when a Western is looking for someone to fuck with. I'm your Huckleberry. Kung Pao. The Labyrinth. The one with David Bowie. I absolutely adore it but can definitely see why it wouldn't suit for many. The Crow. Napoleon Dynamite. 1. Fifth Element. 2. Equilibrium. 3. Chronicles of Riddick. I mean, I understand them if they choose to hate these movies. But they're wrong. Toys. Robin Williams. Joan Cusack. Michael Gambon. LL Cool J. Somehow this terrible movie captured my heart. Including the soundtrack. Tori Amos FTW. Muppets Most Wanted. Mallrats. The Lobster very good flick but a very slow burn. A Knight's Tale. I scrolled through this whole post looking for it and no one said it. I personally love it but it really is a terrible movie. Raising Arizona. I love it and always have. Absolutely think the humor is some of the best of the 1980s. But it seems like this film is either loved or hated. I watched it once with 2 close friends who I thought would enjoy it and they didn't laugh once. I've since heard from a few others who just don't find that sort of humor funny. To me it's weird but everyone has their own tastes. Talladega Nights. I hated it when I saw it in theaters. In fact, I walked out on it. But now it's one of my favorite movies along with some other Will Ferrell ones. Step Brothers and Elf. Definitely not for everybody though. Mulholland Drive is one of my all-time favorites. But if someone said they didn't like I wouldn't fault them for it. It's unnerving, confusing, sexually charged, and most of all David Lynchian. Van Helsing. It's an insanely campy monster movie from the early 2000s, but it's fun and has possibly the best Dracula ever. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Edit. Thank you for my first silver. This movie means a lot to me as it brings up memories of my childhood running around with friends yelling. Knee. Edit 2. Thank you so much for my first gold. I finally get to check out this lounge I've heard so much about. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. God, that movie's awful. But it's fun. And add an audience participation. That joke is legally required. Despite my disdain for it at this point. And it's an absolute blast. But, you know, all the huge fans acknowledge it's a flaming dumpster fire of a story. Requiem for a Dream. So good but so sad. My favorite movie for a long time was Cloud Atlas, but I also really liked the book, so I went in already excited about it. If someone ever tells me they can't stand it I totally understand. The movie, and all of the plots of the different characters, weaving all over the place is such a nonsensical mess at times it leaves you having no idea what's going on. It doesn't explain much and is honestly a little depressing. I get it. Point Break. Edit. To clarify, I meant the original. Haven't seen the remake because I don't want to ruin the glory that is the original. The unintentionally hilarious dialogue, the nonsensical plot, Keanu, Swayze. And let's not forget Gary Busey's teeth, supported by Gary Busey. Clue, it's too goofy for a lot of people. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's so fucking goofy and probably shits all over the comics, wouldn't know. Never read them, but something about my lizard brain just keeps telling me you really enjoy this. I think I just find all the actors very charming. And they seem to enjoy chewing the scenery. Apart from Sean Connery. But fuck that wife-beating shitweasel. The Pirates movies, I guess. Terrible plots. Too many main characters. Too many backstabbing and double crosses. Sea monster people. The Kraken killed off screen. Far too long run time. Plot holes all over the place. But I just think they're neat. National Treasure. I watch it every time it's on. But I understand how bad it is. 2001: A Space Odyssey. It is one of my favorites and it is a beautiful film with a deep meaning. But I can see why people would find it boring or not to their taste. I have tried to get my friends to watch it with me and they just don't share my passion for space and futurism. Edit. Thanks for the gold, stranger. My first ever award. The Star Wars prequels. Yeah, the dialogue is stupid almost all the time. But the theme and general plot of Anakin's turn to the dark side because of the failings of the Jedi is actually really great. They're fun to watch. Plus all the memes. Halloweentown and Halloweentown 2, if you've seen them you already know. Lol.